Hello, my name is Molly Sampson. This is Gaming 225, and we will be discussing Elaine Wynn. Now, Elaine Wynn has contributed to Las Vegas in many different ways, with different roles and different positions that she's held throughout Las Vegas, as well as she's been described as graceful, elegant, and down to earth. And I hope to be able to show you how beneficial she was to Las Vegas and still is. Now, Elaine Wynn has many roles and different things that she has accomplished over the years. She was Miss Miami Beach. She was homecoming queen of her high school. She went to UCLA. She met her ex-husband actually through both of their parents. She became a Bruni Belle. She was a Southern Campus Yearbook Queen. She served as a floor assistant to Florida Senator George Smathers at the Democratic conventions that was nominated Jane Kennedy. She actually transferred schools to be closer to Steve Wynn at the time. She studied political science. And she didn't come from money, actually. Both Steve and Elaine had to pay for their own education. Her mother was Russian, and she was a first-generation American on one side. And as well, she worked on Sundays in order to have spending money for the week because they didn't give out handouts. So Elaine Wynn and Steve Wynn both met over winter break during their freshman and sophomore year of college. They were set up by their fathers, however, both of them were degenerate gamblers, the fathers. They actually were wooed, Steve Wynn actually wooed her by romantic tapes DJ'd by himself from radio stations, as well as his intellect. They got married in 1963, and when the father passed away of Steve Wynn, they took over the bingo parlor that his family owned. Now, it's important to have Steve Wynn in this PowerPoint because Elaine Wynn and Steve Wynn worked side by side together. They were a team. It wasn't Steve Wynn climbing the ladder and Elaine Wynn below. They were together and they worked together. Steve Wynn actually didn't come from money as well. He has a BA in English from the University of Pennsylvania. However, his father did die suddenly, so he didn't get to use his degree during that time. He ended up taking over the business, which was the bingo parlor, with Elaine after they got married. The father left a huge debt because he was gambling quite a bit. Steve later became in charge of the slots from the Frontier in Las Vegas, and that's how he came to Las Vegas with Elaine. And then later on, they bought their first property at the Golden Nugget. And then Elaine also was helped credited for designing and giving contributions to the Mirage and the Wynn Las Vegas. They also expanded their knowledge and ability towards Treasure Island, Bellagio, Encore, the Wynn, Maraca. And honestly, he was known as a visionary. And she was known as like the sounding board, very grounded, very even-tempered. She was definitely the one where you came to first before Wynn. Now, when creating the Wynn resorts, as you can see in this timeline right here, you can see the different hotels and the times that they were built and when they were opened. The Wynn Resort, however, was $2.7 billion opening it. It took 5 years of construction and design. It was 24 hours around the clock. Wynn had people working and pouring concrete. There's approximately 2,700 hotel rooms, and the square footage is massive. Elaine was involved in the design and construction of multiple casinos. Elaine's impact on the Wynn was overseeing spa amenities. She was constantly updating them. She was constantly being innovative. She even picked the uniforms that they wore for each department and put thought into it, as well as the chocolates that they carried, the chocolatiers, the luxury shops that they carried. All of that was her. Now, the following clip will be on the Forbes Travel Guide of 2021. This Forbes Guide shows you the amount of effort that they put into their marketing team, how the music engages you and heightens your senses, to the immaculate flowers, to the types of wines that they have. This music, it makes you want to feel a part of the Wynn Resort. It also tells you the different things that they offer, that it's a Forbes. And the best of all is the ending. The opinion we care about the most is yours, because it's true. Now, with Elaine Wynn, there are limelight cons. Her daughter was sadly kidnapped, her 26-year-old daughter, and Steve Wynn had to withdraw $1.5 million. He was actually given a call at the Mirage that his daughter was being held captive out of her home and kidnapped. She was safely returned, luckily, and she was only 3.7 miles from her home, and she was in the backseat of her car. Now, they did find the man, luckily, but it did take some time. She ended up divorcing Steve Wynn in 1986 after 23 years of marriage, and then yet again remarried in 1991 to Steve Wynn, and then re-divorced. So they were off and on, and they re-divorced in March 2009. So this was one of the most expensive divorces on record. He was actually rumored to have an affair with a British divorcee, and she had 2 kids, and apparently he met her on a yacht. And then with sexual harassment allegations against her ex-husband later on. And Nevada Gaming Commission fined Wynn Resorts $20 million for ignoring these complaints. It was the largest ever fine from the commission. So they took it very seriously, these complaints. Now, by far, these contributions are just titles that she held over the years where she was able to contribute to society. These are not all of them. However, these are the majority of them. Now, she has a history of being the chair of the University Foundation. She got the Governor's Philanthropist of the Year in 2005. She got an honorary doctorate from University of Nevada in 1986. She was honored with the White House with 1 out of 7 of the National Promise of American Founders Awards for improving children's life. She was president of Nevada State Board of Education in 2012 to 2020. The goal was to close the technology gap. And then she was on the board of directors of the Wynn. She was the largest stakeholder and co-founder. She became the largest stakeholder in 2018 after her husband stepped down. Now, Elaine Wynn has a history of philanthropy. She was the director of the Wynn Resort. She was able to help with just even her name. She was able to help many places, like she was able to support the Greater Las Vegas Inner City Games. She was able to help build charter schools for at-risk kids. She was in charge of the donations at the Wynn Resort. She was in charge of every donation that went through her. She got almost like 75 to 100 requests for donations. In an article that I read, she said that if it emotionally connected with her, she was going to donate. And then it goes on to say that she donated about $3.5 million in the name of the Wynn Resorts. And then she donated $75,000 in 2014 to build a playground for the Southern Nevada's Women's Correctional Center in North Las Vegas. She additionally, on top of that, contributed to make work programs for the women. She wanted to make sure the kids had somewhere to play because they didn't have anywhere to go and they were just sitting in a room. On top of that, she also contributed to many different places that researched eye disease because her ex-husband did have a degenerate eye disease. She was also the chair of the UNLV Foundation and raised large sums of money for the building project and actually contributed to a ballet. Now, she stands out. She was the director of the Wynn Resort. She was a hands-on director, deciding the uniforms, the spa amenities, to carrying out and developing a look and culture of multiple properties. She created relationships with investors and retail vendors. She engaged with staff constantly. She created diversity and new perspective as a female board executive and director. She was a mother of 2 daughters. She helped design and create hotels side by side by her husband, which was not heard of back then. And she was able to contribute to charitable foundations, even just with her name. Now, unfortunately, with all highs, there is a low. So she did have to step down from power. There was a lawsuit against Steve Wynn to gain control of her shares because he was trying to take over all of them. They also said the board of directors and Wynn Resort stockholders were saying that she wasn't meaningfully contributing to the discussion or work. And that's why they were trying to kick her off the boards. She was no longer able to serve the boards officially in 2020, and she was required to withdraw. She passed the company's boardroom age limit of 75, and at that time she was 78. She ended up giving up the fight and decided to focus more on her state education and charitable boards. Her ex-husband already stepped down in 2018 because of the sexual harassment claims. Now, Elaine Wynn made a stand for women and children. She had a mentor, Williams, and she was the first to operate a strip casino. She did the Holiday Inn or the Holiday Casino, and it offered the first strip buffet. And Elaine was able to give an advice and personal and then work-wise as well. She was offered counsel advice until Williams died in, sadly, 2009. She helped close the technology gap in Nevada schools. They helped set up Wi-Fi in houses. They were able to give resources like laptops. They partnered with like Cox Wi-Fi, Google Chrome laptops. She became the 13th richest self-made woman in the U.S. of 2021. She was a shareholder in the Wynn Las Vegas, $2.2 billion. And she was an amazing woman. Hello! I would just like to thank you so much. You have reached the end of this presentation today. I hope from this presentation you were able to see the roles and contributions that Elaine Wynn contributed to the Wynn Resort and the many other roles that she played in Las Vegas. She was not below Steve Wynn in any way, shape, or form. She was a partner in the marriage and equally in the partnership of the Wynn Resort and the Mirage. She contributed equally, just in a different way, and it's important to know this. She paved the way for many women and children throughout her career, and it will always be known that she definitely helped women get onto the strip and be known that she is able to work equally with her husband on a strip casino and be profitable.